Joe and Joe Biden made more than $15 million in 2 years after leaving the White House. Tax return show. Gee, are we going to hear about this all over the corporate media? Well, at least this is coming from CNBC. Is the corporate media going to be talking about Joe Biden's tax returns? They couldn't wait to talk about Bernie's. They couldn't wait. And oh, how shocking is it that the most popular politician in the country has over $1 million? Wow, that is... Yeah, you know, I'm in show business. I could make a list of comedians that there's a good chance nobody watching this right now has heard of. They have, you know, niches. They fit certain niches, and they are millionaires because they fit a certain niche. They draw a certain amount in every city across the U.S. and internationally. In some cases, they are millionaires. There's a good chance you may have never heard of their name. There are TV writers I know that can walk down the street that you would never recognize in a million years. You may not have even heard the show they wrote on. They are millionaires. Anyway, you get the idea. The outrage over Bernie was absolutely ridiculous. But Joe Biden, gee, I wonder if we're going to get the same amount of outrage here. 15 million. Now, that's not a million in assets. That's not like, oh, he has $1 million over the course of his lifetime. He wrote a best-selling book, which was the case for Bernie. 15 million in just the 2 years after leaving the White House. In 2 years, 15 million. Joe and Joe Biden made more than 15 million in 2 years. 2 years after leaving the White House. Tax returns show that. Former Vice President Joe Biden and his wife Jill made more than $15 million in the 2 years after the former vice president left office. Biden easily made the most money last year among Democratic presidential candidates who have released their tax returns so far. The couple reported $11 million in adjusted gross income in 2017. Documents from 2016 through 2018 show. They followed it up with another $4.6 million in adjusted gross income. In a statement Tuesday, the Biden campaign spokesman Andrew Bates disputed that Biden's newfound wealth would affect his goals. He said the former vice president grew up in a blue-collar family and was forced to move away from home in order to make ends meet. Fighting for working families has been the defining cause of Joe Biden's life. And the first event of his campaign, oh God, this is great. The first event of his campaign was, this according to the article, the first event of his campaign, Joe Biden's campaign, was hosted at a Pennsylvania union hall where he blasted Donald Trump's tax breaks for the rich and big corporations. He's running to restore the American middle class with everybody, regardless of race, gender, religion, or sexual orientation, on the deal this time. That is complete and utter bullshit. Pretty much, the first event of his campaign was a dinner with a bunch of Comcast executives. It was a private dinner in Pennsylvania with a bunch of Comcast executives. That's why Joe Biden is one of the few Democrats, even out of the Democrats, he's one of the few Democrats who is openly anti-net neutrality. Some of the other anti-net neutrality Democrats are at least subtle about it. He's the only right on the surface anti-net neutrality Democrat. The first event of his campaign was a dinner with Comcast executives. Oh, and you want to talk about what he says behind closed doors? Go find a video of him from 2006 talking about how he wants a border wall. Well, it was a fence, but he wanted a border fence similar to what Donald Trump was calling for. Joe Biden, that's Joe Biden. 15 million in 2 years. From doing whatever bullshit it is he does, probably speaking engagements, stuff like that. 15 million, 2 years. Are people going to make a big deal of this? That he's accumulating this amount of wealth after being out of office? And no, not every president, vice president accumulated that kind of wealth after getting out. Look at Jimmy Carter, Truman. But Joe Biden, he tried to cash in. We did a story once on this show about like the outrageous rider that he had for his speaking engagements, like how insanely ridiculous it was. The rider that he had. Because people just aren't into it. I mean, the Clintons were an example. They couldn't sell any tickets. They had to cancel everything because they couldn't sell any tickets. The Clintons couldn't. And I just had to scratch some cat hair. If you notice that. Lucy jumped off. But I had a little bit of cat hair there. It's going to make me sneeze. All right. So anyway, Joe Biden. Are we going to make a big deal of this? Are we going to hear about this? I mean, CNBC reported this. Are we going to hear about... Is Rachel Maddow going to talk about this at all on our show? Maybe she will. Has she talked about it? I'm sure they're going to talk about it at Fox News because he has a D next to his name. But is the rest of the corporate media going to talk about this? I guess we'll see. Is this going to be made as big of a thing as Bernie's were? I doubt that. I doubt that. 15 million in 2 years. Joe Biden. Man of the people. Joe Biden. Sure. Yeah.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your